Oh gosh, it started already. Good morning. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I mean, the GibTalks is a fantastic concept, and I'm so proud and honored to be here with such an interesting range of speakers who have some very important messages to communicate with us. So I'm delighted. I've got a rather challenging title. It seems quite intense. It's called Creating a 2020 Vision for Gibraltar. And there are actually two key strands underpinning this title. So bear with me while I try and communicate that. The first one is the future. 2020 is really about the future, not just in the sense of 2020 as a year ahead of us, but it's a term that's used to define the future. And I really want to talk or question about who really shapes our future in Gibraltar, who defines what we are as a community and who we are as a community. And I want to argue that Gibraltarians need to develop stronger 2020 vision. The second part of my talk, which will be towards the end, will make a case about that big word which is called decolonisation, but not in the UN term. Decolonisation of the mind, decolonisation of thinking, and decolonisation of our education systems. I really do think that we need to do that if we are intending to take greater control of our own future as a community. But let me start, please, by sharing some experience with you. I've only just returned back to Gibraltar, as many of you know, and I have been very privileged to have travelled quite extensively in the 30 years that I've been away. My role as an expert advisor to the UN has given me an opportunity to learn from the experience of other communities, but also to work with some rather brilliant minds. Over the years, I've learned something really important, or at least something that really is close to my heart. I have seen how the day-to-day troubleshooting can be quite dangerous and very unhealthy for communities. If we're looking at the here and now and our minds and our day-to-day activities so focused on this, we don't have an opportunity to look up and around. And that is something that I have seen happen in particular regions, in particular countries that have shaped the futures of those communities. Indeed, it's so unhealthy that I have seen the futures of groups of people slip away, whereas their energies are focused very much on the immediate issues. In Gibraltar, we are focused on day-to-day realities, whether it be the border issues, the restrictions placed on our sporting associations, the day-to-day protection of our waters. That's sort of part of the talk of town, isn't it? And all of these issues are very, very critical. But the question is, are we being robbed of our future? Whether intentionally or unintentionally, these things are our daily realities. You could argue there's a conspiracy theory to keep us so focused on what's going on here that we don't have a chance to plan on where we're going to go there. Or it could just be simply that historically, this is the way that things have worked for us. I want to argue that alongside the troubleshooting, which does need our attention, we need to develop the composure, the confidence as a community, and the mental agility to stand back. We need to take control of our future. That is the argument I want to put to you. Because we take a step and a step and a step at a time, and those steps are being placed to us by our neighbours, by those further beyond our shores, and we continue to go along this path. And sometimes we have a chance to look back. But do we really know where we're headed? Do we really have a choice of those steps of where we're going forward? That is the question I put to you. But it's not easy. Even if we just stand back and see that those steps are put in our sights, it's not easy for us to be a fast-forward thinking culture. It's not actually in our nature to envision what we really want, what our preferred future is, rather than the very likely future that is ahead of us. And that's what I have seen in other places happen. Some countries have taken control, some communities, local, regional, they have engaged in the process of empowering and taking control of their destiny and creating their destiny. My view is that when we talk about decolonisation in Gibraltar, we need to look beyond the self-determination language, however important that is. We need to decolonise our thinking. We need to sort of question how we think and how we knee-jerk react, because historically we have the battle mentality, and rightly so. We've had to respond to challenges about our identity, about our right to self-determine, about our right to choose, absolutely, and we need to continue battling. That is what makes us Gibraltarian. But let's be smart enough to marry that battle mentality with that forward-thinking mentality. Let's look at ways in which we can deeply embed that control, where we can think about the future in a more constructive way, rather than in a predetermined way. Indeed, as I say, I've recently returned to Gibraltar, and I'm quite fascinated by the fact that when I go down Main Street, I hear a lot of response and reaction to current issues. Our media, our political debates, our cafe society. That's what you hear about, the latest news, the latest problem-solving issues. Can we change that discourse, please? Can we please start talking about the type of community we want to be by 2020 and work backwards, rather than work forwards from the standard situation that we've got? I think that that would be so healthy, so exciting for us as a community. It's us taking control of our future. But the thing is that we don't really have those platforms at the moment where we can have those conversations. We don't have the incentives. We don't have the opportunity to define that 2020 vision yet. So where do we look for those? I'm going to argue education and perhaps the creative arts in Gibraltar provide that platform. But before I go there, I want to sort of visualize a little bit more what I mean by taking control of our future. Sometimes I feel we're engaged in a very much like a snakes and ladders game, a random throw of the dice that determines where we end up. Sometimes we hit a ladder that helps us progress up the board. For example, the loophole that assisted us with the membership of UEFA, which has been so important to us, nationally and in the international stage. But sometimes we hit a snake, and Brexit may well prove to be that long, slippery snake. What are we doing? We're playing somebody else's game, somebody else's board, somebody else's step, somebody else who's throwing the dice for us. My plea is, can we please stop playing those games? They disempower us as a community. Can we engage in defining what as a community we want? Not just the right to self-determine, which is critically important as a discourse. Can we define what we want to be by 2020, what will happen, and how we can get there? Learning and education, for me, plays a very important role. Because if we're going to decolonize the way we think, we need to change how we see things, those glasses that we have come to acquire as Gibraltarians through our history, through our social interactions, through the politics around us. We've developed a way of seeing things. I really genuinely believe that education, not just our schools or universities, but the way in which we learn from each other and engage in critical thought needs to help us build that vision. I want us to not just use the word future disparagingly. So this cartoon says, "Gentlemen, charge your glasses for a toast. Here's to the future, to the future." And then what do? Whatever happened to? And this is not just about drink. I think we use the word future so laissez-faire. We don't really understand, we don't really engage in a process of defining the future. We need to have the skills, the practice, the opportunities. But if we have an education that is so focused on understanding current situations, we don't tend to move forward. This says, "I expect you all to be independent, innovative, critical thinkers." That will do exactly as I say. Now, I'm not saying our education systems are like this, but there is an element There's a caricature element to our schools, to our universities, where we're passing exams, where we're studying to get employment, where we are being determined to take certain steps forward. Where's the creativity on education? Where do we find the spaces to develop those skills to empower us to take control of our destinies? Some people say that actually the internet, the linking of computers, can assist us in this way. It can help us to broaden our horizons and perhaps help us change those glasses. Well, yes, indeed, but we need to know how to use this connectivity. If we use it in our systems to just find answers to particular questions, I'm afraid we're going to be quite stuck. We have another scenario. And again, don't take me wrong, I don't think this happens in our schools consistently, but there is an element in our universities, in our schools, where we say, okay, class, 2 + 2 = 5. 2 + 2 = 5. The capital of France is Spain. The capital of France is Spain. Very good class, very good class. Where is the possibility for us to be creative, original, us to build our identity as Gibraltarians in a way that enable us to have the type of community that suits us? I'm going to come to an end to my talk in a minute. And I think that perhaps the key message of what I'm saying is that we need to judge our identity, our possibilities as a community, not just by how well we might be at present and how comfortable we might be, or our quality of life at the moment, but how we judge each day by putting seeds in our community, by planting opportunities and taking those steps forward in the direction that we want to go. Judge your day by, what have I done that will secure us the type of future that we want? It's about our own story. It's about creating that story. And 2020 is only 4 years away. It's not far. The creative arts, education, critical. Let us develop that vision. Let us see those horizons beyond those that are drawn by those external forces. And I want to finish with a question. What type of community would you like to see by 2020? If we can start by asking those questions and debating that, I think we are constructing our own ladder going forward. Thank you very much.